everybody. This is going to be the first in a several part series of bowl turning basics. I know that when I started personally, I really struggled with what tools I absolutely had to have. And over the last 6.5, 7 years, I've developed a tool set that works for me. It's very simple. It's how I make the great majority of my own work. This is sort of what I would consider the absolute basic set of tools to get going, and just a good set of tools to have for bowl turning specifically. So I'm going to go through each tool one by one, a little bit of explanation, and then the following weeks I'm going to go through and do very short videos of each tool, how I use it, how you could use it, and hopefully it'll help you put together sort of a basic toolkit. It's certainly not the only way to do bowl turning, it's what works for me. I think the important thing is once you get rolling and you have enough tools to get going, you'll find things that work for you, or you can take what I do and adapt it to your style. There's a few wrong ways to make bowls, but there's many different ways to turn a bowl that's very effective. So hope this helps. Here we go. All right, first up we have the chainsaw. I will say before I say anything else, if you are unfamiliar with using a chainsaw, please get some local help. Have somebody teach you the basics, safety procedures, make sure you have the right safety gear. Out of all the tools we use, this is the potentially most dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, please seek help. Anyhow, not necessarily brand specific. Mine is my main saw is a 461, has a 24-inch bar. I generally run just a standard chain on it. No need for a ripping chain. Ripping chains are from milling into end grain if you're using like an Alaskan style mill. So this is my main saw especially when I'm working on the sawmill. For you, if you don't have a saw, I usually suggest that somebody gets a saw a little bit bigger than what they think they're going to need. One thing is an option if you're going to do mostly smaller work. There are a lot of really good electric chainsaws, battery ones out in the market now. They're a lot easier to maintain. Just keep bar lube oil in the port and a charged battery and a sharp chain, and you're good to go. But this can be used for everything from bucking up logs to noodling bowl blanks, and then if you don't have a bandsaw, which is not a requirement for a basic toolkit, it's a really good way to rough out a circle with a slab. So other than that, you're going to need some way to sharpen your saw. I love this tool from Stihl. It files not only the teeth that cut the wood, but it checks the raker depth and files it down at the same time. So if you know somebody, or if you personally are good at filing teeth with a hand file, it works fine. At some point you'll realize, if you haven't, that even though the teeth are really sharp, the chain will stop cutting, and it's basically because these rakers are a little bit too high and they're preventing the teeth from getting a bite in the wood. So this is a good solution. It's not the only one. In my opinion, it's worth the $40 or so. The nice thing is the files are replaceable. They just slide out. Yeah, works great. I know that Stihl doesn't make theirs. It's a rebrand from somebody else. I can't remember who makes it, but I do recommend this as an option for sharpening. And next up, compass and or divider. So compass, I love this one. It's not a necessity to have this brand, but I think it's Le Cible, made in France. There's a couple reasons I like this one. It's made really well. It fits a carpenter's pencil in, so it's a little more stout than a normal school pencil. It opens up to just a bit over a 20-inch circle, which is most of what I do is under that size. So that is a great option for drawing the circles on your blanks. And then, a cheap pair of dividers that opens to, a decent width. You could also use this to mark circles if you wanted. Just make sure the points are nice and sharp, and you can just sort of scrape it into a blank. Mainly for this, I use it for marking tenon sizes and or, let's see, if I have a bowl where I want to mark where I want something, I'll use it to mark it before I turn it. That way I can have repeatable results. So a must have. Don't have to spend a lot of money, but it's great to have both of these options. Hey, from there, ForgeRock chucks. So I'm not one to really speak a whole lot about specific brands. I can tell you I use One Way, this is a Stronghold, and Vicmark, I think this is a VM120. They're both well made. I prefer the Vicmark, I think their jaw selection's a little better. They also are more sealed. They're just better made. They are a little more expensive. These are used for anything from mounting a blank initially onto the lathe or gripping the tenon that you'll put on the bottom of your bowls to reverse them. For mounting a blank, my preferred method is the worm screw. I think that you can get them with pretty much any brand chuck, where they simply just mount in. You can drill your hole in the blank and this just simply threads in. Simple and effective way. I turn really big pieces on a worm screw, like 20-inch, plus bowls are fine on this, especially if you're using tailstock support. So ForgeRock chucks, there's a lot of other brands. I would highly recommend whatever you do, buy a good brand, spend a little bit more money. I don't like buying tools more than once. So if I buy a tool, I tend to know that it's like, okay, I'm gonna need this forever. I'm gonna spend enough money that I won't have to replace it. That said, I have several of each one. It's easier for me to just keep different size jaws in them, but you can certainly just get jaws, put them on and off one chuck when you get started. So you're gonna need a low speed grinder at the very least. So you can use a high speed, I prefer low speed. You don't need the grinder going a million miles an hour. All you're gonna do is burn through the steel on your tool. Next up, some sort of a jig that allows you to get repeatable results for sharpening. I use the Tormek one mainly because I have a T8, so it's really nice for me to be able to do rough shaping on a gouge over here and then take it over the Tormek and put a really fine edge on it. So I'll show you. The Tormek one's really easy. Just slide it into the tool holder. Into there, and then, like for instance, this is a 60-degree grind. It'll allow you to get that repeatable result every single time. It's also adjustable to different grinds. Like I said, brand's not that important. I just feel that it's most important that you have a way to get those repeatable results, especially when you're starting out. It's really hard to not have a consistent gouge to go to until you get an idea of how a gouge works and cuts. It just makes life a lot easier. So those are my recommendations for a good starting kit. You can do pretty much everything you want to do with Bulwark with just those simple tools. There are obviously other options. There are things that if you're going to do a lot of production work will speed things up, but if you're just getting started, it's a good way to go. Next video's up, I'm going to go through each tool one by one in really short videos and just show either how versatile a tool is or how I use it specifically. And then from there, you can sort of build your own arsenal, so to speak, of tools you like, how you can use them. Basically how I started is I watched little educational videos, would see how somebody used a certain tool, and then I've eventually over time have adapted those things into how I can make those tools work for me. So by all means, this is not a perfect toolkit for everybody. It's just what I do, especially for all the green turning I do. There are lots of other options out there, but these are what works for me, and I hope that it helps everybody out there get started or take a better look at what tools you're using currently, and maybe look at some other options. So look forward to the second installment next week. Take care, everyone.